the good times roll. Let the good times roll.
Yeah, there's our friend Eric from Paradise, and he is just waiting to escort Seawolf into the Anchorage. They received clearance from Customs this morning, or Port Captain, and he accepted their health certificate from Panama from before they cleared the canal. So he's letting them into the Anchorage now. So they've been in quarantine outside for about 3 days. Not necessarily a lot, but I guess we'll wait and see how they're doing, because they're coming in now to start moving stuff from Paradise over to Seawolf. So yeah, that's what our day looks like today. We're just waiting, I guess, now to see what happens with Seawolf. Eric was just over asking me where he thinks that they should go in the Anchorage, because obviously there's questionable holding here, and it's a big boat, so a lot of windage. But I told him to take it over and put over on the other side of Footloose. Oh, but I see one of the fishing boats is going there right now, so I guess we'll have to see how that pans out. That fishing boat just came back from sea also at the same time. But yeah, I told him to put them over behind this, the government-owned vessel over here, the other fishing boat, because that area in behind us, that's wide open. It's got reasonable depth, you know, reasonable holding, questionable but reasonable. So main thing I told him is just to make sure that they have their anchor set well, because we've been getting squalls, as you know, and your anchor is everything. So, because they are planning on leaving here sometime in the next 2 to 3 days to just go straight across the Atlantic. Next stop, Portugal. So their next check-in place that I'm aware of is in the Azores, and that's a long way. A long way through Hurricane Alley at a very bad time of year. So don't know who's making that plan up, but I have to question it, I do have to say. So anyway, right now I'm just going to pay attention to where they're going and make sure they don't put it into a place that conflicts with us, but I don't think that should be a problem. And, well, we'll do what we can to help, but just remaining aware and alert. What else can we do at this point? And so Eric's bringing them up forward. And they'll slowly inch their way up into the shallower parts of the anchorage to find a good spot to hold. Now that's what I'm talking about. You can clearly see we're starting to get somewhere. Valentina's doing a phenomenal job. Thumbs up, buddy. You can see that it is actually really coming together nicely. We got the whole front face painted, the top is painted, the starboard side is painted, and we've even got, we just put this on earlier, the new alternator. So that is the new 24 volt alternator. It's installed because we needed the belt on the pulley, okay, because this is the water pump, and if we don't have a pulley on that, we can't start the engine. And of course, we have a lot of squalls, we need to be able to start our engine. So even though we don't need the alternator yet, it's not hooked up electrically, it is put in, tensioned, belts on properly, so engine, everything works perfect. But yeah, we are coming together nicely. All this still needs to be cleaned up. We've still got all the insulation to put in, so once we get the silver lined insulation in there, it's going to be really nice. That'll soundproof the compartment again, and we are making progress. Looking awesome. And something else you guys are always asking me about is this electronic control panel, because there's a lot of information on here, and I keep talking about just what the solar output is, but you guys are asking, well, what are all the other numbers for? So, okay, that's what we're going to talk about today, so stick around. That's not going to be the best place to anchor, that's for sure. He's in very tight against these other boats behind, and there's a lot of swinging going on and a lot of dragging from that spot when the squalls hit. And I'm pretty sure what that's what that fisherman is telling Eric right now. Their anchor is right on top of the other boat, so that's definitely not going to work. So I expect we'll be seeing them pull that anchor back up momentarily. Yeah, that's going to be a very bad position to be in. And yeah, you can see those guys don't think so either. We're all standing out watching like, what is he doing? Not a good place to anchor. I put several boats in danger actually being that close. There, yeah, you can see the other boat's hull now behind their bow. They're right on top of them. Okay, well, we'll leave them to figure their shit out, and we will get back to our lesson. Okay, so you guys have seen both these components here, and this is your source of information for the whole system. So basically what you've got here is the BMV 712 that's at the top here. This is like the heartbeat of the electrical system itself, so just the batteries, charging, things like that. It doesn't break everything down, it just gives you an overview. It tells you your overall voltage, it tells you how many amp hours you've consumed since last charge and discharge accordingly. And right now it's telling us how many amps that we're putting into the batteries, which right now is about 30, 35, somewhere around there. So this is a summary of everything collective. So we can't tell from this how much the solar panels are putting in and how much we're actually drawing. We just tell the summary of all of it together in one number. Now down here, this collectively is the brain of the system. This is a veritable computer. So this stores a ton of information because it's interconnected to all the charge controllers, it's connected to the generators, connected to the solar panels. Everything comes in as separate pieces of information, and it collects and stores all that information in all these different menus that we'll see here in a minute. Now, I'm not going to get into the real down and dirty nitty gritty of the system because there's a lot encompassed in this system. So we don't need to get into setup procedures and stuff like that right now because that's going to be different for every single installation. But what I do want to walk you through is just some of the information that's available and how it's stored and how it's, how you can find out what's going on with your system at any given time. Now, when we started this morning, I told you it was at 36%, and now you can see we're at 46%. It's about an hour and a half later. It's just around 10:30 right now, and now we're putting in over 1100 watts, which is giving us an accumulated 65 amps going into the batteries directly. So this again is the summary. It's not telling us how much of it is charge or discharge, but in total. See, down here it breaks it all down for us. You guys are asking, what's DC power? Well, that means how much power are we actually drawing from the batteries with small loads like fans, lights, refrigeration, anything like that that's plugged into the 12-volt system. So that's what this number is recording. PV charger, this is the photovoltaic charger, that's the solar panels, and this summarizes all of the chargers together. So you can see we're getting 1120 watts right now, and this little animation is showing that that is going straight into the batteries and also coming over to the inverter, because the inverter is a load on the whole system. So the inverter gets withdrawn from this calculation over here first by, you subtract this number here, you can see that the battery's getting 600, 700 watts. We're generating 900 watts here. The rest of it is right here. See, AC load says 152 watts. So this is also a draw on the system. So the two greens are the draws on the system. The blue is the draw from the inverter, unless of course it's charging, in which case if we're plugged into shore power, it'll be showing current going the other direction. The red that you see here, this is not showing anything right now because that's for the generator. So when we turn on the generator, this one pops up and comes to life and tells us how much power we're getting into the generator that's going through here into the charger and down and charging the batteries. Now, there's a lot of information available in all of these menus. You can see there's different summary menus depending on what you want to have written on your screen. So you can circle through all of these. I always pick the overview. I like that one. It's got a good detail of everything that's going on. Over here, you get into your submenus, and this is where you can program the devices and check out individual features of each one. There's the Smart BMV 712. It gives you an instantaneous breakdown of everything that's going on. You can click over here to set up all the information. All your menus are right there. Tells you your state of charge. So everything is replicated here because this device actually stores everything in memory and on a little SD card, a little micro SD card. And that's so that everything is stored on a daily basis. So if you want to go back and see what was in or out of the batteries or anything a week ago, a day ago, a month ago, it's all stored on this device. So we can go back, you can see there's our rail and bimini panels, so that's the small panels. That right there is the smart charger for the wind generator you saw me hook up a few weeks ago. And there's our large panels, so that's all the big ones that are up on the bimini and the Dodger. Here's our inverter, it tells us it's inverting. You can switch over there if you want to switch it on or off. Charger only, inverter only, you can do anything you want there. We'll leave that on. But it'll tell you voltage, DC current being drawn, or state of charge. All that information is available right here on this panel. So we switch back to our summary. There we go. Now, of course, the other place that this information is also all available on is the smartphone, because all of these devices are tied together through Bluetooth and they transmit to the phone. And there, so you can see if I load up the Victron Connect app, it comes up with all the devices right there. So the first one we're going to look at is the Smart BMV 712. It's connecting, and there's all the information in real time transmitted to the phone. So we're at 46%. It tells you what your state of charge is. It tells you your battery voltage, what your amperage is going into the batteries, everything right there. Now there's a lot more information available on the smartphone, but for that I'm going to take you over to my computer because there I can put up some screenshots and show you a little bit more accurately, more in depth, what you can find out with this device here. And it's getting better. I think these guys might have been at sea too long. Oh, reverse! Hola! And yeah, as you can see, Captain just kind of gave up and is now just dragging the anchor with them upwind. But hopefully they get it up to make sure it's not fouled before they drop it. You can see Eric is sitting over there waiting for them to come up there and drop, which is more what I told them. So hopefully they have better luck up there. Okay, they got the anchor back up, that's good. But drifting downwind fast. Well, can't tell, but maybe he dropped the anchor already. I guess we'll see soon. Alright, well, let's hope that resolves itself quickly. Until then, let's get back to work. Now, as you can see, what I have here is a screenshot from the BMV 712, and it is showing us that, of course, we were at 38% when I took this screenshot, which is right here, as you can see, 8:53 a.m. That was this morning. So we're at 38%. It was putting in 36.92 amps, you can see right there, which is an overall 481 watts, which is what's going into the batteries. At the same time, at 38%, we are also down 501.5 amp hours at, of course, 13 volts DC. And we have an overall 800 amp hour capacity at 13 volts DC, so that's why we're down by 2/3. You can see here it's saying time remaining is infinite. That, of course, is because we're charging. If this was a negative number and it was nighttime and we didn't have any sun, there would be drawing -5, -10 amps, something like that, and time remaining would be how many hours we have until the batteries reach their discharge level. Below that, we have the starter battery indicator, which is showing us it's 12.51 volts. That's for the engine start battery. And of course, it's going to be a lower voltage because it's still a sealed lead acid battery for high cranking capacity compared to our house batteries, which are all our lithium iron phosphate batteries from Battleborn. Now, if we go up here to this history tab right here and you click on that, you can see it brings up the history of the battery bank overall. It shows our deepest charge, which is -748 amp hours. That's when we took it down to 10% for a deep discharge test. Our last discharge is 507 amp hours, and our average discharge is 408 amp hours, which is 50% of the battery capacity. So that's good. Here it shows you our cumulative amp hours drawn since the last reset, and that you can see is 114,000 amp hours. It'll show you discharged energy versus charged energy, which of course will always be off a little bit because they may not account for the wind generator back before we had it hooked into the system. Now here's where it gets interesting because total charge cycles is indicating 107 charge cycles. Now these Battleborn lithium batteries have a lifespan of approximately 3,000 charge cycles. Now that, if you divide by 365 days per year, you're looking at around 8 to 10 years before they're not actually dead then. That's just when they're rated to be still around 80% of their rated capacity. Now we installed these batteries just over a year ago. In fact, it was last July when they arrived here in San Andres and we hooked them all up. So you would think, given that at least 1 year has passed, that's 365 days, being a full-time liveaboard, we would have had 365 discharge cycles. Not true. These batteries have their own onboard computer system that monitors all our usage, all our charging, and the number of cycles that are actually incurred on the batteries. And you can see right here, they have only reflected 107 charge cycles out of 365 days. Now that's an interesting statistic because it also means that we don't have necessarily just an 8 to 10 year lifespan on these batteries. If that trend continues and we only use 100 to 120 cycles per year, we could theoretically get 25 to 30 years out of these batteries before they are just falling below 80% of their rated capacity. Now that's amazing. Now yes, you spend a lot more money for these batteries in comparison to some of the other technologies like lead acid, but when you look at the longevity of the batteries and how much power you actually get to use each and every day, it's a significant difference. So that's something to consider when you're actually factoring what the overall cost of operation is with these batteries over the course of their lifetime. and even in day-to-day operation. Now, if we switch over to one of our Victron solar controllers, I've got the small panels here. That's the panels that are on the rail, and we can see that at this time, 8:54 a.m., they were putting out 350 watts. Now, they are wired in a series parallel configuration, which has their overall voltage as just over 57 volts, showing current of 6 amps. Now that smart controller takes this voltage from the solar panels and the 6.1 amps and converts it to 13 volts at 26 amps, and that's what is being applied to the batteries as charge. Now you can see this particular array, the small panels, is putting out 350 watts. If we switch to the next panels, there's the large ones. These are all the panels that are up on the Bimini and Dodger. They're putting out 419 watts. As an immediate rating, you can also look here and see network total power, and is 812 watts. That's because it's combining the large panels and the small panels and giving us a combined power output for the whole system. Now if we switch over to history on the large panels, we can go to this chart, which shows us the last 30 days of what has been produced by this bank of panels in particular. Now, keeping in mind that this particular solar controller was actually running the whole system for the last year. So for just over 1 year, you look at the since reset, which is when we installed them last July, is 3.2 megawatts. Yep, not kilowatts, megawatts. That is substantial. And if you amortize that over the course of just over a year, because we installed them, I think, last July, so let's even say 400 days, divide 3.2 megawatts by 400 days, and that averages out to around 8 kilowatts per day. That's substantial, and I have to admit, it's fairly impressive for a monohull. Yeah, we're a 50-foot monohull, not a catamaran with 1,500 feet of deck space to line panels everywhere. We only have them up on our, Dodger and Bimini and usable surfaces. So that's a fairly impressive number for this size of boat. We switch down to the next solar controller, and you can see if we switch back and forth, you see the differences there, and that's just because the two solar controllers are controlling different panels that are getting different amounts of sun during the day. So of course they're going to change a little bit. Now you'll remember we just installed this particular solar controller a couple months ago, and it's already showing a total charge of 140 kilowatt hours. That's a nice piece of information right there. And now of course with all the different solar controllers we'll have on all the different charging devices, we'll be able to isolate and find out which ones are putting in how much power over time. We switch down to this last solar controller, and this is the one you remember we just installed a couple weeks ago. In fact, we installed it right here, as you can see, on the 9th of July. And this is the one that was for the wind generator. So I hooked the wind generator up through this smart controller, and remember when I said that we wanted to hook it up to measure what the actual output was of the wind generator because we had some windy days coming. And you can see right here, we had a lot of wind. In fact, we were averaging well over 1 kilowatt per day for that entire week. Now, right here, you can see that's when the weather returned to normal and we went almost flat calm. And right here, that is flat calm. That's zero output from the wind generator because we had some days with actual 5 kilometers of wind and it was hot and no breeze. Now in the 25th, we start getting our normal breeze back. It's on again, off again, but we're still averaging just over half a kilowatt per day from the wind generator. So that's an interesting statistic to know also because it shows us how much it is actually contributing to our overall consumption, which as you can see since the 9th of July is 13 kilowatts. That's usable power. Not going to sneeze at that because every little bit counts. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I just wanted to give you a little insight as to what type of information is available with some of these new technologies and even the apps that come for our phone that allows us to monitor it. There's a lot more details we could get into, but I'm going to leave that till we start upgrading the rest of the system, and I'll show you one piece at a time as we make the changes from the 12 volt to the 24 volt system and how we change our settings accordingly and how we start monitoring it in different ways. All of this information is going to be reset and we'll start monitoring from scratch again after the 24 volt conversion. So I hope you enjoyed that little lesson in energy management and monitoring, and we'll get back to it in a future episode. So until then, stay safe out there, have a great day, and we'll see you next episode. Well, Eric's marking the right spot. Now we just need them to actually watch Eric and go to where he's telling them to go. So Hopefully as they drift this time, they're going to drop anchor in the right location. Yeah, that is a much better spot for them right there, where he is. This spot's better. We're just gonna. How much chain do they have out? Yeah, but it's important. How much do they have out? Because they will drag in a squall. You know what the squalls are like here, right? They don't want to drag this boat. Because then you're up and trying to re-anchor at 3 o'clock in the morning. But do they know how many meters they put out or how many feet? In this anchorage, even in this shallow depth, they're going to want to have at least 25. Like, they're going to want more because that will help the anchor hold. Okay, so even I've got about 35 meters out on mine. Okay. But I'm the only one who's never dragged.
Me too.
No, but you're in a more protected area and different holding. Out here is a coral shelf.
Okay.
So yeah, just tell them that more chain is better.
Okay.
It'll help it hold better. Okay?
Okay, thanks, Rick.
No worries.